Hello, Vittorio. This is the Masked Analyst. I just got done watching your video on the European Human Rights Conventions and how it affects freedom of speech. And I looked at the link and saw the different restrictions on free speech that are allowed in Europe. And I have to admit that they do, at least at first, look very appealing. I mean, who can be against the noble goals raised? Who can be against doing what you can to stop crime, or to preserve the public order, or to protect people's reputations? Who can be against these things? The question is, should restraints on speech be the means of obtaining these noble goals? As an American, I'd say it would be much better to tread very carefully on limiting free speech rights. Because by limiting free speech rights, though it may protect these noble goals, it can also end up causing damage in its own self. It can throw out the baby with the bathwater. Let's take a few examples. Okay, a couple of speeches, a couple of reasons that the state should be able to limit speech according to the European Conventions on Human Rights is to protect the reputation or rights of others and to prevent the disclosure of confidential information. Well, you may not know it, but in the United States at least, there's a market for very small companies. It's not a well-regulated market at all. It's separate from the main stock market. You'll never hear of any of these companies. It's not on the New York Stock Exchange or any of the big markets. They're called pink sheet companies. They're very tiny companies. There's not much trading in their stock. And since they're not regulated, there's an awful lot of scam CEOs. There are a lot of scam companies. And sometimes what these scam CEOs will do is they'll tell a prospective investor in their company that they've just made a super deal, or they've acquired a new company, or money's about to be pouring in. And they could be lying through their teeth. So they may say this in confidence to one of their investors. And so the investor can sink a ton of money into the company and end up losing his shirt. And as he's losing his shirt, he's realizing that all these nice rosy things that the CEO has told him, they've been lies through and through. Well, if you have laws in place, such as the one suggested in the link, well, if the investor goes out and speaks out against the CEO, first of all, he'll be disclosing information that he was told in confidence, and secondly, he'll be hurting the reputation of the scammer CEO. Now, sometimes the things are not always as clear-cut. It's possible the CEO may have couched it, the terms as, we may acquire this company, or he may have used weaselly words that an average person would conclude that, yeah, the deal has gone through, but he may couch it in terms that if you read real closely and listen to what would be the equivalent of the fine print, you might be able to catch on. So sometimes things aren't clear-cut. But the question is, should the person who's been burned be able to speak out and possibly warn other potential stockholders and prevent them from getting burned? Should he be able to speak out in the hopes that someone from the government will investigate? Danger is that people might start censoring themselves if they are in too much fear that they're violating the law. Okay, a couple of other rather noble goals, or at least noble on the surface, is to protect national security and the territorial integrity and public safety, and to prevent disorder. Now, if the United States had adopted this sort of stance, do you think that information about the Abu Ghraib prison abuses would have gotten out? Certainly, it may have gotten out. It may have trickled out eventually, but I suggest it would probably be slower in coming out. I think that people may have been more reluctant to report on that sort of thing, but people will tend to monitor themselves and be more careful about something, and this is certainly damaged, and sadly, but rightfully so, this has greatly damaged America's reputation around the world. And if we had this sort of law in place, one wonders whether this information would have come out. Let's take another hypothetical. Let's suppose that Israel were to expand and gobble up some more Palestinian territory. Do you think that Israel should have the right to put draconian laws in place to regulate the Palestinian speech so that they will have a harder time of rebelling and spreading information? Well, if you follow these sort of laws, it certainly makes it more possible. So in America, we have a very different concept. I'm not going to say everything goes. There are laws against libel. One can be brought into court for libeling someone else, and those laws can be kind of complicated, and I'm not going to go into them here. But as an American, I'm very hesitant about these laws. They sound great, but in theory, it causes me great concern. Even the laws protecting the reputation of religion are bad. Laws that would regulate speech. Now, anyone who says that all Muslims are evil or all Christians are evil or bad, anyone like that, now you seem to be against that sort of thing, but anyone who makes a statement like that proves that he's an idiot. So I'm happy when I see someone say all Muslims are bad. I'm happy when I see someone say all atheists are bad. The reason why I'm happy about that is because I shouldn't say I'm happy about it, but the reason why it's a good thing is because they may as well say, hey everybody, look at me, I'm an idiot. When someone makes such a blanket, sweeping claim, they make themselves look bad. Also, there may be things within religion that are legitimate targets to criticize. As an atheist, I think there's a lot of things about a lot of religions that are legitimate causes to criticize. But when you start putting restrictions on speech, then people will start to wonder, okay, am I going to step over the line? Is it dangerous for me to step over the line? And I hope you will agree with me that there are false religions, there are cults out there that may be brainwashing people. Where exactly do you draw the line between a cult and a religion? And when can you criticize and when can't you? It's much better to have wide open area for debate. When both sides can present their views, when both sides can present their evidence to back up their opinions, then everybody should be able to weigh the evidence for themselves and decide on the merits of the case. When you start restricting freedoms then of speech, then people get less information that they can use to weigh the pluses and minuses for each side of a debate. So I see that these freedoms, at least within the United States, they're dangerous. I would not want to see them adopted here. Or did I say these freedoms? I meant to say I see these restrictions. It sounds good, but the devil's in the details, and there's too great chance for abuse. This has been the Masked Analyst, under and in.